people aren't taught that comparing what we have to their hypothetical, politically ideologically motivated utopia is actually a bad idea. You know, because it just isn't difficult to take a look at a system like our system and say, well, look at all the problems it has compared to a hypothetical system that doesn't have any problems at all. It's like, well, yeah, man, there's problems. There's, you know, we've taken like 99% of the fish out of the ocean, and you know, the degree to which our current level of economic activity is truly sustainable without alteration is at least debatable, even though I don't think it's nearly as terrible as people make it out to be. But I don't think it's disputable that our current socioeconomic structures are the most productive and the most free structures that have ever been produced by people anywhere in the world. And one of the things you can say about capitalism and free enterprise and the Western stress on individuality is that even though it does produce inequality, all systems produce inequality, and without any real distinction between the right and the left, by the way, because there's a new book called The Great Leveler by Walter Scheidel, who I'm going to be talking to later this month. He did an analysis, empirical analysis, trying to figure out if you grouped governments by right-wing philosophy, say, or by left-wing philosophy, and then you calculated inequality coefficient, would the left-wing organizations be characterized by reduced inequality? And the answer was no. There's no evidence that they are. And what that points to, and this is something very fundamental, it's far more fundamental than political, is that inequality is the rule in cooperative/competitive organizations. You can't posit a value without producing a hierarchy, right? Because you posit a value, say this is worth doing. Everyone says, yeah, this is worth doing. Well, then what happens automatically is that it turns out that some people are better at doing it than other people, no matter what it is.
Well, then they get better and better at it, like the Pareto principle that you talked about.
Well, there's that too, and then they start getting better at it. So the problem is that if you're going to posit a value, which you have to do if you're going to act, then immediately you create a hierarchy. And you also build into the value claim, the claim that A is better than B, you also build into that the idea that if A is better than B, then people who are doing better at A should be differentially rewarded compared to people who aren't. There's no way around that if you're going to play the game. And so you're stuck with inequality, but there isn't any evidence that social engineering policies are really very good at dispensing with inequality, which is a fundamental political problem, and no one really knows what to do about it. But criticizing the entire society, I mean, the thing about the West, and this is increasingly true all over the world, is that our approach generates a tremendous amount of wealth.
For everyone.
I mean, it even happened in China, you know, despite their exceptionally totalitarian leanings. And so what happens with the lefties is that they say, well, inequality is a consequence of the West and a consequence of capitalism, which is a palpably false claim. And they say, well, because it produces inequality, then it's a corrupt system. It's like, no, every system produces inequality, but hardly any also produce wealth.